In the year 2147, Earth was no longer divided by countries or borders. Instead, it was ruled by one powerful organization called the Global Accord. This group promised peace and progress for everyone, but over time, its promises turned sour. The leaders of the Accord wanted complete control. They demanded that everyone follow their rules without question. People who disagreed were punished harshly. Some were silenced, others imprisoned, and many were sent far away to distant colonies on the edges of human space. These exiles were labeled as traitors, even though most had only asked for freedom. Among those cast out were John Carter, a skilled engineer, his wife Lisa Parker, and their close friend Daniel Brooks, a biologist with a curious mind. Before being exiled, they lived simple lives on Earth. John worked on building machines to improve daily life, while Lisa taught history at a local school. Daniel spent his days studying plants and animals, always eager to learn more about nature. But everything changed when the Accord ordered them to stop their independent work. They refused to give up their projects, which the Accord saw as a threat to its authority. As punishment, they were shipped off to Epsilon 9, a barren planet barely able to support life. Life on Epsilon 9 was hard. The air was thin, the soil rocky, and resources scarce. Despite these challenges, John, Lisa, and Daniel tried to make the best of their situation. Together with other exiles, they built shelters, grew food in makeshift greenhouses, and created tools from whatever scraps they could find. Slowly, a small community began to take shape. Though they missed Earth, they found comfort in knowing they were free to think and act as they pleased. Back on Earth, things were growing worse. Strange ships appeared in the skies, attacking cities and destroying entire regions. The attackers were an alien species known as the Valens. No one knew much about them except that they were highly advanced and merciless. The Global Accord scrambled to defend humanity, but failed miserably. Their armies were no match for the Valens' superior weapons. Panic spread across the planet as people realized they might not survive. The Accord, desperate and running out of options, sent a message to all human colonies, including the ones they had exiled. It was a plea for help, asking anyone who could to come to Earth's aid. Most people doubted the exiles would respond. Why would they risk their lives for the same people who had treated them so cruelly? On Epsilon 9, John picked up the distress signal late one night while monitoring communications. He listened carefully, his brow furrowed as he absorbed the details. When he told Lisa and Daniel about the message, they gathered in their small home to discuss what to do. The room was quiet except for the hum of the wind outside. "We can't just ignore this," Lisa said finally, her voice firm. "I know we have our differences with the Accord, but this is bigger than us. If we don't help, humanity might not survive." Daniel shook his head. "It's risky. We don't even know if we stand a chance against those aliens. And let's face it, Earth isn't exactly welcoming to people like us." John stayed silent for a moment, weighing their words. He thought about the suffering on Earth and the fear gripping its people. Then he thought about their own struggles on Epsilon 9. Finally, he spoke. "Lisa's right. We may not owe the Accord anything, but we owe it to ourselves to try. If we don't fight now, there won't be a future for any of us." With that decision made, the three friends began preparing for the journey ahead. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they also knew they couldn't turn their backs on humanity, even if humanity had once turned its back on them. After deciding to respond to Earth's distress call, John, Lisa, and Daniel faced their next big challenge: convincing the other exiles on Epsilon 9 to join them. The colony was made up of people who had been betrayed by the Global Accord, and many were reluctant to risk their lives for a government that had abandoned them. Some even argued that helping Earth would be a waste of time, believing the fight against the Valens was hopeless. John knew they couldn't do this alone. They needed allies, supplies, and ships if they were going to make a difference. So, he and Lisa called a meeting in the colony's main hall, a large dome-like structure built from salvaged materials. Dozens of people gathered, their faces reflecting a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Daniel stood quietly at the back, observing the crowd. "We've all heard the message from Earth," John began, his voice calm but firm. "The Valens are attacking, and the Accord is losing. If we don't act now, humanity could be wiped out." A man named Ryan spoke up first. "Why should we care? The Accord didn't care about us when they threw us away. Let them deal with their own mess." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Lisa stepped forward, her expression determined. "I understand how you feel. Believe me, I do. But think about what's at stake here. This isn't just about the Accord anymore. It's about every human being, on Earth, on this colony, and everywhere else. If the Valens win, none of us will be safe." Her words struck a chord with some of the colonists, but others remained unconvinced. An older woman named Clara raised her hand. "Even if we wanted to help, what can we do? We don't have weapons or training. We're farmers and builders, not soldiers." Daniel finally spoke. "That's true, but we have something else. Creativity. We've survived here because we've learned to adapt. If we work together, we can find ways to fight back, even without fancy equipment." The debate continued late into the night. In the end, a small group agreed to join John, Lisa, and Daniel. Among them were Rachel Cole, a former pilot who had been stripped of her rank for questioning military orders, and Ethan Gray, a farmer turned leader known for his ability to inspire others. Though the numbers were modest, it was enough to start building a plan. The next step was gathering resources. The colony scavenged old parts from broken machinery to repair outdated ships that had been left behind when they were exiled. Rachel took charge of inspecting the vessels, ensuring they could withstand space travel. Meanwhile, Ethan organized teams to collect food, water, and medical supplies for the journey. As preparations progressed, tensions ran high. Not everyone supported the mission, and arguments broke out frequently. Some colonists accused John and his team of being reckless, while others feared retaliation from the Accord if they survived. Despite the criticism, John pressed on, driven by a growing sense of responsibility. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the rocky landscape, Lisa joined John outside their shelter. She looked tired but resolute. "Do you ever wonder if we're doing the right thing?" she asked softly. John sighed, staring at the distant stars. "Every day. But then I think about my family back on Earth, the ones I haven't seen in years. And I think about everyone here too. If we don't try, we'll always wonder what might have happened." Lisa nodded, gripping his hand tightly. "Then let's make sure we succeed." By the time the fleet was ready to launch, it consisted of 5 patched-up ships carrying around 50 volunteers. It wasn't much compared to the Accord's forces, but it was a start. As the engines roared to life, the colonists watched anxiously, unsure whether they were heading toward victory or disaster. John gave one final speech before boarding his ship. "This won't be easy," he said, addressing the crew. "But remember why we're doing this. We're fighting for freedom, for ourselves, for Earth, and for every human being who deserves a better future. No matter what happens, we'll face it together." With those words, the fleet lifted off, leaving Epsilon 9 behind. Ahead lay the unknown, filled with danger and uncertainty. Yet, for the first time in years, the exiles felt a spark of hope, a belief that maybe, just maybe, they could change the course of history. The journey to Earth was long and dangerous. The small fleet of ships, led by John, Lisa, and Daniel, traveled through uncharted regions of space where no one from Epsilon 9 had ever ventured. The exiles knew they were heading toward a fight they might not survive, but they also knew there was no turning back. Each day brought new challenges, testing their courage and determination. As the ships moved deeper into space, the crew began to encounter signs of the Valens' presence. Strange energy readings flickered on their scanners, and debris from destroyed vessels floated silently in the void. It was clear that the aliens had been active in this area, hunting down human ships or outposts. The sight sent shivers down everyone's spine, but it also hardened their resolve. They couldn't let fear stop them, not when so much depended on their mission. Rachel Cole played a key role during these tense moments. As a former pilot, she had experience navigating hostile environments, and she used her skills to guide the fleet safely through asteroid fields and other hazards. Her calm demeanor under pressure earned her the trust of the crew, many of whom had never flown a ship before. She spent hours teaching the inexperienced pilots how to maneuver in combat situations, drilling them until they could execute basic maneuvers without hesitation. Ethan Gray focused on keeping morale high. He walked among the crew, sharing stories of resilience and reminding them why they had chosen to leave Epsilon 9. "We didn't come this far to give up now," he often said. "Every one of you has something to fight for, whether it's family, freedom, or the chance to prove we're more than traitors. Let's show the universe what we're made of." Daniel, meanwhile, worked tirelessly in the science lab aboard his ship. Using salvaged equipment, he studied the data collected from the energy readings and debris. He hoped to find a weakness in the Valence technology that could give them an edge in battle. His efforts paid off when he discovered something alarming. The energy signatures matched experimental tech once developed by the Global Accord. This raised troubling questions about the origins of the invasion. One night, as the fleet approached a cluster of abandoned satellites, they came face to face with their first real test. A group of Valen fighters emerged from the shadows, surrounding the ships. Alarms blared as the crew scrambled to prepare for combat. John took command, barking orders over the comm system. "Stay calm and follow Rachel's instructions. We can get through this if we stick together." The battle was chaotic and intense. The enemy ships moved with incredible speed, firing beams of light that cut through space like knives. The colonists' outdated weapons struggled to keep up, but their unconventional tactics gave them an advantage. Instead of engaging directly, Rachel directed the fleet to use the satellites as cover, dodging attacks while picking off isolated targets. John led a daring counterattack, piloting his ship straight at the largest Valen vessel. His actions drew the enemy's attention, allowing the rest of the fleet to regroup and strike from behind. The maneuver worked, forcing the Valens to retreat. Though the victory was small, it boosted the crew's confidence. For the first time, they realized they stood a chance against the invaders. After the skirmish, the fleet regrouped to assess the damage. Several ships had sustained minor injuries, but miraculously, no one was lost. As repairs were made, Daniel shared his findings about the Accord's connection to the Valens. The news spread quickly, sparking anger and disbelief among the crew. "This changes everything," Lisa said quietly to John later that evening. "If the Accord caused this, how can we trust them?" John shook his head. "We don't have a choice. Whether we like it or not, humanity's fate is tied to theirs now. All we can do is focus on stopping the Valens, and then figure out what comes next." With renewed determination, the fleet continued its journey toward Earth, knowing the hardest battles still lay ahead. But they also carried something powerful within them, the hope that even traitors could become heroes. As the fleet approached Earth, the sight that greeted them was devastating. The once blue planet now looked battered and scarred, its surface covered in smoke and ash. Cities lay in ruins, their towering structures reduced to rubble by relentless Valen attacks. Survivors huddled underground, struggling to survive as supplies dwindled and hope faded. The exiles stared at the destruction in silence, their hearts heavy with grief and anger. The Accord's remaining forces were scattered and disorganized. Their ships patrolled the skies, but they were clearly outnumbered and outgunned. General Harper, the commander of Earth's defenses, initially refused to acknowledge the arrival of the exiles' fleet. To him, these were traitors, people who had abandoned Earth when it needed them most. He saw no reason to trust them now. John knew they couldn't afford to waste time arguing. He contacted Harper directly, requesting permission to dock and coordinate their efforts. At first, Harper dismissed the request, accusing the exiles of seeking revenge or trying to take control. But Lisa intervened, speaking calmly yet firmly over the comm system. "General Harper, we didn't come here to fight you. We came to save humanity, including the people still loyal to the Accord. If we don't work together, none of us will survive." Her words struck a nerve. After a tense pause, Harper reluctantly agreed to meet with the exiles. A small delegation, including John, Lisa, Daniel, Rachel, and Ethan, boarded a shuttle and headed to one of the Accord's last remaining bases. As they landed, they were met with cold stares from soldiers armed with weapons trained on them. It was clear the Accord didn't trust them, but they had little choice but to cooperate. Inside the base, the atmosphere was grim. Soldiers moved quickly through dimly lit corridors, their faces etched with exhaustion. Civilians sat huddled in makeshift shelters, their eyes hollow with fear. Harper waited for the group in a command center filled with maps, screens, and blinking alerts. His expression was unreadable as he gestured for them to sit. "We're stretched thin," Harper admitted gruffly. "The Valens hit us hard and fast. We've lost too many ships and too many lives. What can your ragtag fleet possibly do that we haven't already tried?" John leaned forward, his voice steady. "We may not have the resources you do, but we've learned to adapt. We've survived against impossible odds before, and we've seen how the Valens operate. Let us help you turn the tide." Harper hesitated, glancing at his advisors. Finally, he nodded. "Fine. But if you betray us, I won't hesitate to take you down myself." With the uneasy alliance formed, the exiles returned to their ships to begin planning their strategy. Rachel worked closely with the Accord's pilots, sharing tactics she had developed during their journey. Her confidence inspired even the most skeptical soldiers, earning her reluctant respect. Ethan coordinated with ground teams, organizing supply drops and evacuation missions for civilians trapped in dangerous areas. His leadership skills proved invaluable, bridging the gap between the two groups. Meanwhile, Daniel continued analyzing the data he had collected about the Valens. He discovered patterns in their movements, suggesting they were searching for something specific on Earth. This revelation gave the Coalition an idea. Perhaps they could use decoys to lure the aliens into traps. Lisa focused on keeping morale high among the exiles. She spoke often with the crew, reminding them why they had come. "We didn't leave Epsilon 9 to win anyone's approval," she said during one meeting. "We came because it was the right thing to do. No matter what happens next, let's hold on to that." As preparations continued, tensions lingered between the exiles and the Accord. Trust didn't come easily, and old wounds ran deep, but both sides recognized that their survival depended on working together. For the first time in years, humanity stood united, not because of shared loyalty to a government, but because of a common goal: to protect each other. When the time came to launch their counterattack, the combined fleet gathered in orbit around Earth. The plan was risky, relying on speed, surprise, and teamwork. As the ships prepared to engage the Valens, Jean addressed the entire coalition over the comm system. "This isn't just about winning a battle," he said. "It's about proving that humanity is stronger when we stand together. Let's show the Valens, and ourselves, what we're capable of." With those words, the fleet surged forward, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The counterattack began under the cover of darkness, with Earth's battered surface glowing faintly beneath layers of smoke and ash. The combined fleet, made up of the exiles' patched-up ships and the Accord's remaining vessels, moved swiftly toward a massive Valen mothership orbiting the planet. This was the heart of the enemy's operations, and destroying it would cripple their ability to launch further attacks. John led the charge, piloting his ship straight into the fray. His vessel wasn't equipped with advanced weapons, but its agility made it perfect for dodging the Valen's deadly energy beams. Rachel provided guidance from her own ship, calling out maneuvers over the comm system. "Stay low and use their fighters as shields," she shouted. Her voice was calm but urgent, keeping everyone focused despite the chaos around them. The battle quickly became intense. The Valens outnumbered the Coalition, and their ships moved with terrifying precision. Bright bursts of light illuminated space as explosions rocked nearby vessels. One by one, the smaller alien fighters closed in, forcing the human fleet to split up and scatter. It was a risky move, but it prevented the Valens from surrounding them completely. Ethan coordinated ground support from Earth, directing teams to evacuate civilians while relaying crucial information about the aliens' movements. His leadership kept morale high among the soldiers, who were inspired by his determination. "Keep moving," he urged over the radio. "We've got this." Meanwhile, Daniel worked furiously in the science lab aboard his ship, analyzing data collected during the fight. He noticed something strange. The Valens seemed to prioritize certain targets, ignoring others entirely. This behavior confirmed his earlier suspicion that they were searching for something specific on Earth. Whatever it was, it gave the Coalition an opportunity to exploit their focus. Lisa stayed close to John, monitoring communications and ensuring the fleet remained organized. She watched as John expertly weaved through enemy fire, taking calculated risks to draw the Valens away from weaker ships. Her heart raced every time his vessel came too close to danger, but she trusted him completely. "You're doing great," she said softly into her headset. "Just keep going." As the battle raged on, the Coalition executed its most daring maneuver yet. Using decoy signals created by Daniel, they lured a group of Valen fighters into a trap near a cluster of abandoned satellites. Once the aliens entered the designated area, Rachel and her team sprang the ambush, firing at point-blank range. The surprise attack wiped out nearly half the enemy squadron, giving the Coalition a much-needed advantage. With the Valen forces weakened, the fleet turned its attention to the mothership. John volunteered to lead a strike team tasked with infiltrating the vessel and disabling its core systems. Alongside him went Rachel, whose piloting skills would be essential for navigating the ship's tight corridors, and Daniel, who hoped to gather more intel about the aliens' technology. The mission was perilous. The trio fought their way through swarms of Valen drones, using makeshift tools and sheer determination to overcome obstacles. Inside the mothership, they discovered evidence that supported Daniel's theory. The aliens had been drawn to Earth because of experiments conducted by the Global Accord. Fragments of reverse-engineered Valen tech lay scattered across the ship's labs, confirming humanity's role in provoking the invasion. Back outside, the rest of the fleet continued battling the remaining Valen forces. Ethan rallied the ground troops, leading them in securing key locations and protecting survivors. His bravery earned him respect even from the most skeptical Accord soldiers, who began seeing the exiles not as traitors but as allies. By the time John, Rachel, and Daniel returned to their ships, the tide of the battle had shifted. The Coalition pressed its advantage, launching a final assault on the mothership. With a deafening explosion, the giant vessel collapsed in on itself, sending shockwaves through space. Cheers erupted across the fleet as the surviving Valen ships retreated, leaving Earth's skies clear for the first time in months. Though exhausted and battered, the Coalition celebrated their hard-fought victory, but the cost had been high. Ships destroyed, lives lost, and scars that would never fully heal. As the dust settled, one thing became clear. Humanity had proven it could unite in the face of extinction. And though trust between the exiles and the Accord remained fragile, hope flickered once again, for a future where freedom and cooperation might replace fear and division. The victory over the Valen mothership was a turning point, but it didn't bring peace. The Coalition knew the aliens might return with greater force, and they couldn't afford to let their guard down. As repairs began on damaged ships and wounded soldiers were treated, Daniel shared his discovery about the Accord's role in provoking the invasion. The news sent shockwaves through the fleet. John called an emergency meeting aboard his ship to discuss what Daniel had uncovered. The room was tense as he laid out the evidence. Fragments of reverse-engineered Valen tech found inside the mothership, along with logs detailing experiments conducted by the Global Accord. "This is why the Valens came here," Daniel explained. They detected unauthorized use of their technology and retaliated. Lisa watched as anger spread across the faces of the exiles. Many felt betrayed, not just by the Accord, but by humanity itself. "We left Earth because we wanted freedom," one exile said bitterly. "But now we find out our own people caused this mess." General Harper, who had joined the meeting via comms, struggled to defend the Accord's actions. "We were trying to protect humanity," he argued. "The experiments were meant to give us an edge against potential threats. We never intended to attract the Valens." His explanation did little to ease tensions. Ethan stood up, his voice firm. "Intentions don't matter when the consequences are this bad. Your greed and secrecy put all of us at risk. If you'd been honest from the start, maybe we could have avoided this war." The debate continued late into the night, but eventually cooler heads prevailed. John reminded everyone of their shared goal: survival. "Pointing fingers won't help us now," he said. "What matters is that we stop fighting each other and focus on rebuilding. Whether we like it or not, we're all in this together." With renewed determination, the coalition turned its attention to stabilizing Earth. Ground teams worked tirelessly to clear debris and restore power to damaged cities. Civilians emerged from underground shelters, their faces filled with gratitude for the unexpected heroes who had saved them. For the first time in months, there was a glimmer of hope. Rachel took charge of repairing the fleet, knowing they would need every ship operational if the Valens returned. She taught inexperienced mechanics how to patch up hull breaches and recalibrate engines, turning her frustration into action. "If we can survive out there in the middle of nowhere," she told her team, "we can fix anything." Daniel focused on studying the alien tech they had recovered. He believed understanding the Valens' methods could prevent future invasions. His research revealed that the aliens communicated using complex energy patterns, which gave him an idea. "What if we create a signal to confuse them?" he suggested during a strategy session. "Something that mimics their own language, but disrupts their systems instead." The plan was risky, but the coalition agreed to try it. They modified several ships to emit the disruptive signal, hoping it would buy them time if the Valens attacked again. Meanwhile, Lisa traveled between ships and bases, speaking with survivors and gathering stories of resilience. Her efforts helped bridge the gap between the exiles and the Accord, reminding everyone of their shared humanity. As days passed, trust slowly began to grow. Soldiers who once viewed the exiles as traitors now saw them as equals, people willing to risk everything for the greater good. Even General Harper admitted he had misjudged them. "You proved me wrong," he told John during a private conversation. "I thought you were reckless, but your courage changed everything." Though challenges remained, the coalition celebrated small victories. Together, they rebuilt communication networks, distributed food and medical supplies, and started planning for the future. The scars of war still lingered, but so did a newfound sense of unity. One evening, as John and Lisa stood outside their ship watching the sunset, Lisa smiled faintly. "Do you think we can really start over?" she asked. John nodded. "It won't be easy, but we've already come so far. Maybe this is our chance to build something better for everyone." In that moment, surrounded by the ruins of Earth yet filled with hope, they realized the fight wasn't just about defeating the Valens. It was about proving that even broken pieces could come together to create something stronger. The coalition's efforts to rebuild Earth continued, but the shadow of the Valens loomed large. Though their mothership had been destroyed, everyone knew the aliens could return at any moment. To prepare for that possibility, Daniel worked day and night in his makeshift lab, refining the disruptive signal he hoped would confuse the Valens systems. He collaborated closely with Rachel, who helped adapt the technology to fit the fleet's outdated ships. Meanwhile, John and Lisa focused on fostering unity among the survivors. They traveled between settlements, listening to people's stories and addressing their concerns. Many civilians were grateful for the exiles' help, but some still harbored resentment toward the Accord. Why should we trust them again? One man asked during a town meeting. "They're the reason we're in this mess." Lisa responded with quiet strength. "We can't change the past," she said, "but we can choose how we move forward. If we stay divided, we'll never survive another attack. We need to work together, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary." Her words resonated with many, helping ease tensions between the groups. Slowly, people began to see each other not as enemies, but as partners in rebuilding their shattered world. Civilians joined forces with soldiers and exiles alike, repairing homes, planting crops, and restoring basic infrastructure. Ethan played a key role in this process. His leadership inspired others to contribute, no matter how small their efforts might seem. Every brick you lay, every seed you plant, it all matters, he told a group of volunteers working to clear rubble from a collapsed building. Under his guidance, communities started thriving again, even amidst the ruins. Despite these positive changes, General Harper struggled with guilt over the Accord's mistakes. During a private conversation with John, he admitted his fears. "I spent years enforcing rules I thought would protect humanity," he said, "but look where it got us. Maybe freedom isn't such a bad thing after all." John nodded thoughtfully. "Freedom doesn't mean chaos. It means giving people the chance to make their own choices, even if they fail sometimes. That's how we learn and grow." Harper seemed to take these words to heart, becoming more open to input from the exiles. Together, they formed a temporary council to oversee recovery efforts, ensuring decisions benefited everyone, not just the Accord loyalists. This marked a significant shift in leadership, as power was shared rather than hoarded. As weeks passed, Daniel completed his work on the disruptive signal. The modified ships were ready to deploy, creating a protective network around Earth. Testing the system revealed promising results. When activated, the signal caused nearby Valen drones to malfunction, giving humans a crucial advantage in battle. However, the true test came sooner than expected. One morning, alarms blared across the fleet as scouts reported another wave of Valen ships approaching Earth. Panic surged through the coalition, but John quickly rallied everyone. "This is what we've been preparing for," he said over the comm system. "Stay calm and stick to the plan." The battle was fierce, with both sides taking heavy losses. But thanks to the disruptive signal, the Valen's coordination faltered, allowing the coalition to gain the upper hand. Rachel led daring maneuvers that lured enemy fighters into traps, while Ethan coordinated ground defenses to protect civilians. Amidst the chaos, Lisa monitored communications, ensuring every unit stayed connected and informed. In the end, the coalition emerged victorious once more. The remaining Valen ships retreated, leaving Earth's skies clear. Cheers erupted across the planet, but there was little time for celebration. The fight had drained resources and left many wounded. That evening, as the coalition gathered to assess the damage, Daniel shared a sobering realization. "The Valens won't stop coming until they find what they're looking for," he said, "and based on the data I've analyzed, I think they're searching for something tied to the Accord's experiments." His words cast a somber tone over the meeting, but also reinforced the importance of transparency moving forward. For the first time, General Harper openly apologized for the Accord's actions, vowing to dismantle its oppressive policies. "We can't undo the harm we've caused," he admitted, "but we can build a new future, one based on trust and cooperation." Though challenges remained, hope burned brighter than ever. The coalition had proven that even broken pieces could come together to create something stronger. And though scars of war lingered, they served as reminders of the resilience humanity had shown, and the promise of a better tomorrow. In the aftermath of the second victory against the Valens, humanity began the long process of healing. Earth was still scared, its cities in ruins, its people weary, but there was a sense of hope that hadn't existed before. The coalition had proven that unity, even among former enemies, could overcome the greatest challenges. Now it was time to rebuild not just the planet, but the spirit of humanity itself. John, Lisa, and Daniel returned to Epsilon 9 with their fellow exiles, hailed as heroes despite their initial status as outcasts. The colony greeted them warmly. proud of what they had accomplished. Though some colonists were hesitant about resuming ties with Earth, most agreed that cutting themselves off completely wasn't the answer. Instead, they proposed forming a new alliance, one built on mutual respect rather than control. On Earth, General Harper kept his promise to dismantle the oppressive policies of the Global Accord. In its place, he helped establish a council that included representatives from both the Accord loyalists and the exiled colonies. For the first time, voices from all corners of human space were heard, ensuring decisions benefited everyone equally. Ethan Gray became one of the council's key members, advocating for fairness and cooperation. His leadership inspired others to believe in a future where freedom and responsibility went hand in hand. Rachel Cole stayed on Earth for a while, helping train pilots and improve the fleet's defenses. Her expertise saved countless lives during the war, and her presence reminded everyone of the sacrifices made by those once labeled as traitors. When she finally decided to return to Epsilon 9, she left behind a legacy of courage and innovation. Daniel continued studying the Valence technology, determined to prevent another invasion. He worked closely with scientists from across the galaxy, sharing knowledge and ideas. Together, they developed advanced warning systems capable of detecting alien activity far beyond Earth's borders. Though the threat of the Valens remained, humanity felt better prepared to face it. Lisa focused on documenting the events of the war, writing stories of survival and resilience. She believed these tales would remind future generations of the importance of unity and trust. "We didn't win because we were stronger or smarter," she often said. "We won because we chose to stand together." As months turned into years, life slowly returned to normal, or at least a new kind of normal. Cities were rebuilt, fields replanted, and families reunited. People learned to value freedom over fear, creativity over conformity. The scars of the past served as reminders of how far they had come and how much they had lost along the way. One evening, John stood outside his home on Epsilon 9, gazing up at the stars. Lisa joined him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "Do you ever wonder if we'll see another fight like that?" she asked softly. "Maybe," John replied. "But if we do, I know we'll face it together. We've already proven we can handle anything when we work as one." Lisa smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder. "You're right. And no matter what happens next, we'll always have each other." The journey hadn't been easy, but it had changed them, and humanity, for the better. What started as a desperate mission to save Earth had become something greater, a testament to the power of forgiveness, adaptability, and hope. The exiles who were once cast aside had risen to become humanity's greatest defenders, proving that even those labeled as traitors could shape the course of history. And so, under the vast expanse of the cosmos, humanity took its first steps toward a brighter future. It was a future filled with challenges, yes, but also possibilities. For the first time in decades, people dared to dream again, guided by the courage of those who had fought not just for survival, but for freedom.